Hey guys, sorry about that. I had to cut off the video because it can only go for about 15 minutes before the upload speed doesn't work very well. So this is part 2 of our discussion of the syllabus. So as I was saying in the last video, we were talking about late work. So for participation assignments, after the deadline, you have to have a valid excuse in order to make up the work. And you can look at the attendance policy in the syllabus to try to determine what a valid excuse is. Typically it's something like you were sick, right? Then you can go back and you can make it up. It's just like if it were class attendance, right? So if you missed an assignment in class for one of your other professors, you probably would have to have an excused absence in order not to get counted absent for that day. Participation assignments work the same way. And it's because sometimes students will treat online classes as though they only have to pay attention to them every 3 weeks or whenever an assignment is due. And I don't want you to get into that habit, because what happens if you get into that habit is you get behind. So you need to treat this as though there's participation. There's attendance every week, and that attendance comes from completing those participation assignments. So please pay attention to those. That's how I know you're progressing in the course. If you don't complete one of them, you got to come to me and let me know, here's why I didn't complete it. Can I make it up? And then you have to get permission from me in order to make it up. Otherwise, it doesn't get counted. For all your other assignments, essays and exams, you have a 1-week grace period. So, scenario 1, I hand in my work before or at the deadline. If you hand in your work before or at the deadline, you have the possibility of anything from a 0 to a 100% based on your score, right? You did good, you get no late points, no deductions. The world is your oyster. I'm very excited and happy with you because you handed in your work on time. But things happen to the best of us. We get sick, we have busy weeks at work, or we just plain forgot. I wake up one day and I realize, oh crap, I'm taking 5 classes and I got real distracted and confused and I forgot that I had an essay due this week. Miss Toline. So don't send me this panicked email that says, Miss Toline, I forgot my essay. Don't worry about it. You have a 1-week grace period. Now, the 1-week grace period is not without penalty. If your assignment is handed in after the deadline, but within that 1-week period, you don't have to give me an excuse. You don't have to tell me why it was late. Just hand it in. As long as it's handed in within that 1-week grace period, I'm not going to ask questions. You could have traveled back in time, and that's why you were late. That doesn't make any sense. That's a terrible example. I was trying to think of something silly, but I thought of something stupid instead. You could have fallen into a hole while you were walking home from work one day, and you got stuck down the hole for 2 days, and you didn't have access to your laptop. And so, since you didn't have access to your laptop, you weren't able to finish the essay. You don't have to write me an email that says, Miss Toline, I fell down a hole. All you have to do is hand it in within that 1-week grace period. Now, regardless of your reason for being late, there's a point deduction. And that point deduction is 10%. So, say I write a perfect paper, but I hand it in 1 week late, 10% is a 90%. So the highest grade I can possibly get is a 90%. So what I want you to remember about that 10% point deduction is that it means that you're essentially automatically getting to offer letter grade. So if it would have been a B paper, now it becomes a C paper. If it would have been an A paper, now it becomes a B paper. And here's the reason for that. The reason for the lateness penalty is because at some point, you guys are going to start running into situations where people won't let you be late. So a fun fact about me is that after I got my master's in English and taught for 10 years at Southern, teaching college composition, I decided I want to try something new. I'd like to learn some more stuff and learn how to do other things. And so I went back to school. And specifically, I went to nursing school. And I since have graduated and I have my license as an RN. What I learned in nursing school was the first time I had been in college in a while. People didn't let us hand things in late. So in nursing school, if you handed something in late, you didn't get credit for it. And it was too bad. It did not matter what the reason was. You could have been vomiting constantly from sunup to sundown. Didn't matter. Too bad. Penalty taken. You didn't get to hand it in. So I know from that experience that at some point you guys are going to encounter situations where somebody's not going to care what the excuse is. I've worked jobs like this where it doesn't matter what the reason was. If I didn't show up on time, I was in trouble. That's not necessarily always fair, but it is something that happens a lot in life, and it's something you have to learn to account for, and you have to learn to start to plan for. So on the one hand, you get the grace period because I know that things happen. But on the other hand, there's a penalty for that grace period because I don't want you to just blow things off, right? I don't want you to decide, oh, well, the deadline doesn't matter. The deadline's arbitrary. Because if I hand it in a week, she's going to give me the same points anyway. I'm not doing that anymore. That's not a thing. You have the grace period. You can use it for any reason. You can use it as many times as you need to. You can be late, a week late on every essay. But then every essay is going to get docked 10%, right? So please be mindful of that. Now, after the 1 week grace period, the assignment closes. Once the assignment's closed, it's up to me whether you can hand it in or not. And this becomes a lot harder. So at this point, you need to have a much, much better excuse. You need to have, I don't know, been in the hospital. Something where there was absolutely no way that you could have handed in the work on time. So the reason for this is that in the past, I've had students take an online class thinking, oh, an online class is going to be easier because I can do the work at my own pace. And then those students will not hand in any work for the first 3/4 of the semester and then get to the end of the semester and realize, I haven't handed anything in yet. What am I going to do? This is terrible. And they're frantically scrambling and trying to hand everything in. I don't want you to get into that position because it's not a good way to develop your writing. In order to truly develop your writing well, you need to be participating in the course throughout the semester. And so you've got a grace period, you've got some time to get that stuff handed in, but after that 1 week deadline, you got to come to me and I'm the gatekeeper and it's 100% up to me whether I decide to accept that late work. And chances are I'm going to ask you for a documentable excuse. So something that you can physically document to prove that it really happened. So that's the stuff about late work. That takes up a lot of time because it's the most complicated part of the syllabus. ADA compliance disability services. If you feel like you have specific needs based on your learning style or something that might be affecting you, you can contact the Office of Disability Services and they might be able to help you. So, for example, if you need extended time on tests, that's a really good example of an accommodation that people frequently get. They will talk to you and find out why that is, what's going on, and then they will get in touch with your instructors and say, this student officially needs to be allowed X, Y, and Z accommodations for their particular learning style. So if you feel that that's something you need, reach out to them. They're very friendly. They're really wonderful. This is all they work with. And so if you think you might qualify for some special considerations or things based on your learning needs, then you should contact them. So these are some of the other policies about how we handle things in the classroom, expectations that we will not discriminate against students for any reason. So please read those policies too. That helps you to know what you're entitled to in your education. That's important to know. Attendance policy, you guys can kind of skip over this first part because this isn't us, right? We're not a physical in-class, in-person course. The makeup work is facilitated at the instructor's discretion. That's true. So in my late work policy, I say those participation assignments, it's up to me whether you get to make those up. and that you need to have a valid excuse. So this starts being relevant to you around time number 3. Number 4, for online courses, specifically my course, participation assignments and the equivalent of course attendance. So see my grading policies above. What I think you're really going to want to notice is that there's a list here of things that might, examples of what might happen for excused absences, what excused absences mean. And this is where you can find what's going to happen if you're not turning in your participation assignments. So if you're not turning them in, here's some examples of excused absences. And then here is what happens if you have too many unexcused absences. So if you have too many missed participation assignments that don't get excused, it's going to start to affect your grade, is basically the point that's being made here. That's not as nearly as complicated as it sounds like it is. The point that this section is making is please make sure that you're participating in the class on a weekly basis. So those are the basics of the syllabus. Next week, we're going to be going over a second part of the syllabus that has to do with plagiarism. And I do that as a whole separate unit because I've had problems with it in the past. And so I just want to make sure it's clear to everybody and that you understand exactly what it is. And also it's going to factor into the things that we're going to do in the first unit. So next week I'm going to add a little addendum to the syllabus that just has to do with plagiarism. We're going to talk about the plagiarism policies. But other than that, you can find the basics here in your course